Hey guys, this is Marshall from Pacific Reviews, and today I'm going to do part 1 of my 2-part review on the iPod Nano 6th generation 8GB in graphite. Now there's going to be a part 2 on the UI, which is, there's a link right there. And so this is just part 1, the hardware, solely the hardware. So first I'll get into the options you have with the Nano, because starting with the 3rd generation Nano, they offered you different colors besides just white and black glass. So starting off, you have silver, graphite, which is this color, red, orange, yellow, green, pink, and blue, and it comes in 8 or 16 gigabytes, which is pretty good considering that the some of the older generations came in 4 or 8, and 8 gigabytes is pretty good. And that's the one I got because most of my media is actually on my iPod Touch, the 4th generation, so I don't have to worry too much about this being my primary iPod. So first off, I'll go into why I bought it. I bought it mainly because I wanted, like a backup iPod, I guess. That if my iPod Touch ran out of battery, I would always have this, and this would always work. I would not recommend this if you're someone who, is an experienced iPod user to have one of these as their primary. I would just recommend getting the iPod Touch. So first, I'll start off with the sensors that this thing has. It has an accelerometer for shake to shuffle, an FM radio, and a pedometer. And now I'll go into the weight. It is about 3/4 of an ounce. I mean, it is extremely light. You can barely feel it in your hands, and if you have it on any kind of article of clothing, you can barely feel it then. So now I'll just show you around this a little bit. So here you have the screen. If I turn it on, you'll kind of see that that's how big the screen actually is. That black border is just, like I said, a black border. So here you have the volume down, volume up, sleep, wake, 30-pin connector, and headphones, and the clip on the back. And now that was another thing that they added hardware-wise to the iPod Nano, was that clip. And they really made this almost like a shuffle that takes it to the next level, I guess you could say. So that's it really for the body of it. Now I'll go into the battery life. It is, as most Apple products are, lithium-ion. Now, Apple claims you can have 24 hours of straight listening to music, that is, just choosing a playlist or whatever, and plugging in your headphones and keeping it at half volume, and you can have 24 hours. Now, that versus the iPod Touch, the 4th generation, which, sorry about this, I have right here. This has 40 hours of video playback. Now, obviously, the battery is decreased in a device because it is so small. I mean, I'll just show you size-wise. Here's the iPod Touch 4th generation and the new Nano. I'll just show you that actually, if it wasn't for the clip, they'd be, almost exactly the same depth. And then, so, just trying to be careful there, not to scratch my screen. So there you go. There's kind of your idea of how small it actually is. They say it's about half as small as the previous Nano. So, the iPod Touch having 40 hours just shows you actually how small the battery is in this. It's not bad. I tend to rate my devices, whether it be a cell phone, iPod, or anything, by how many days I can go without charging it. And this is a 3-day device, which means, for me that's an average of 3 to 4 hours of listening to music a day, occasionally checking the watch feature, the iWatch that Steve Jobs was talking about, and occasionally going through photos and just kind of showing it off to people who don't know what it is, because it is actually a very different design than any previous iPod. And I tend to keep my brightness up almost all the way, mainly because if I'm walking around outside and I want to check the time, it's kind of hard to navigate, especially on a screen this small, which I'll get to in a second, to get to the settings and turn up the brightness. So besides that, I like to keep the brightness up a lot. So 3 hours of listening to music and occasional use, maybe looking through pictures, choosing songs, that kind of stuff. 3 days. You can go about that. That's the same thing for my iPod Touch 4th generation. And again, my iPod Touch 4th generation includes, 3 hours of music playback, games, lots of games, applications, internet use, Facebook, all that kind of great stuff on the iPod Touch. So this is really a music iPod. There really isn't much more than that. So now I'll get into charge times. The quick charge time on this is 1.5 hours versus the 2 hours on the iPod Touch 4th generation. Full charge time is 3 hours versus the 4 hours on the iPod Touch. So it does charge a lot faster, but then again, it is also a smaller battery. Now, the screen is a big thing about this. Here's the screen. You can kind of see the border there, just along there. It's a 1.54 inch diagonally screen that has 240 by 240 pixels. Now that's 220 pixels per square inch. Now that versus the Retina display on the 4th generation iPod Touch, this is 326 pixels per square inch. And the older iPhones had, I think, somewhere around 160 to 170 pixels per square inch. So the display on this, you are going to see the pixels. It's not a Retina display. But it really isn't bad at all. I think that they could have made it a little bit better, but where they made it isn't bad. So, the display, you're not going to have any worries about that. Now, it is a multi-touch display, which I'll just quickly demonstrate here for you. As you can see the clock, you can rotate it. But that's pretty much all it is for multi-touch. Especially on a screen this small, multi-touch really wouldn't be that great for anything else. There's no pinching into pictures, you actually have to double tap, but that's more into the UI, which I'm going to, like I said, do a second part to this video. Next, also, I'll kind of talk about the screen just a little bit more, is a lot of people, me included, thought that this screen would be way too small to actually use. That, if your thumb is as big or bigger than the screen, then it's not going to be that great. But it actually feels a lot bigger than it actually is. I mean, if I go through my songs here, and I go through them, it's not that bad. It just takes a little bit getting used to. Now, the screen works really well with the UI, and like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on solely the UI. So, with that, this really is a great device. It's a great additional iPod, or for someone who's never had an iPod before, and someone who's 6 through 10 or 11 or 12 who wants an iPod, just use music, just has a few songs, but just wants something more than the shuffle, just wants those little extra features, and that's what this brings. And at a price of $150, I think that's a little steep for what it actually does. I think if they had priced it at $100 and the 16GB $150, I think that would have been better, but obviously with the multi-touch and the smaller size and all that, they probably had to price it somewhere around here, but there's a lot less materials involved. So I think that this is still a great buy. I would definitely recommend this to someone who has a larger iPod and just wants something to work out with. Because my media, I have 5 gigabytes, a little over 5 gigabytes in music alone, somewhere around 1,000 songs. And the iPod Shuffle, which only has 2 gigabytes, can't hold all my music. And for someone like me, who I listen to almost any kind of genre. Now, for me, I want to be able to have all my music whenever I want it, when I want to get into the mood of a certain genre, or someone wants to just look through my songs. It is really nice to have that opportunity to have all my music on here. If you're someone who needs the 16 gigabytes, if you have something close to 8 gigabytes, because this doesn't give you exactly 8 gigabytes of memory, it gives you something like 7.4 gigabytes, I would definitely get that 16 gigabyte model if you're somewhere close to there, because there's also other features and memory involved with that. So this has been Marshall from Pacific Reviews with the hardware review on the iPod Nano 6th generation 8GB in graphite. Thank you.